In this presentation, we are going to look at the history of the Igbo people, and we focus more on the possible origin of the Igbo people. Well, the history of the Igbo people is a bit vast, and for somebody to understand it effectively, you have to look at different areas of the Igbo. But let us start with the possible origin. The possible origin of the Igbo people has been a very serious issue, and it has witnessed a lot of debates with different level schools of thought, and also different level of different historians attempting to explain the possible origin of the Igbo people. Some coming up with their theories and with their own believed evidences to back up their claims. But for us to understand this, but in this presentation, I am going to look at the analysis of different schools of thought and different historical groups that attempted to explain the possible origin of the Igbo people. So most of what I will present here are based on researches and based of other other historians, that attempted to explain the history of the Igbo people. For us to understand it, let us look at it. Let's look at it from this angle. There are theories that exist. One of them was the theory that tend to state that Igbo people origin is traceable from outside Africa. Another theories believe that Igbo people's origin is traceable from within Africa but outside the Igbo land. Then there is another school of thought that believe that Igbo people's origin is traceable from within the place where Igbo land is. And they've lived there for quite a long time. But for us to understand this, we have to look at these groups of historical groups in two different perspectives. One, we'll call one of them the externalist historians. Also, the next group will be the internalist historians. Let's look at the theories of the externalist historians. Some of these externalist historians are G.T. Basdin, M.D.W. Jeffries, Major A.G. Leonard, and then Robin Horton. These historians and some other ones believe that Igbo people origin, their origin is traceable from outside Africa. Some of them tend to point towards Israel, while some of them tend to point towards Egypt. Most of their researches tend to be based on ethnographic materials, for where they looked at the similarities, language similarities, cultural similarities of the Igbo people, and all in comparison to Israel and Egypt. Majority of them tend to point towards Israel based on the similarities. Some of them even came up with the theory that that Igbo is an adulteration of the word Hebrew. But there's a little twist to this, a little problem. Most of the theories that they presented did not bring substantial and acceptable evidences to back up their claims. These theories did not bring substantial evidences to back up their claims, thereby opening a huge gap of debate, which I think historians or present researchers can cover up. That is the externalist. Then there's another group that I can still call externalist, but within Africa, that tend to believe that Igbo people's origin is traceable from the Sudanese area. Some mentioned Khartoum, some mentioned Timbuktu, within Africa, from where they went southwards because of possibly some conflicts within the groups that they met on their way as they were coming down, until they came to what is known today as Nigeria. So those are the externalist historians. Then there is another group too, if I go to the internalists, that tend to believe that Igbo people's origin is traceable to some of their neighbors Precisely, some mention the Edo people. But this group tend to focus mainly on two Igbo communities. First is the Onitsha people, and then the secondly is the Asaba people. The Onitsha people and the Asaba people. Some theorists tend to believe that the origin is traceable to Bini. Well, this theory cannot be substantiated in the sense that there have been a good relationship, both social relationship, conflict relationship between the Igbos that have boundary with the Edo people. So some of them tend to misunderstand this to be the possible origin. And this theory cannot be applicable to all parts of Igbo land, making it not strong per se. Then let's look at the internalist historians. Some of them are G.I. Jones, P.A. Talbot, K.O. Dike, and some other historians. These historians believe that Igbo people's origin is from nowhere, that is basically from Igbo land. That the Igbo people have lived in Igbo land for thousands of years ago. They tend to back up their claim with some of the archaeological materials discovered in Igbo land. They say that some of these archaeological materials tend to explain that the Igbo people have lived in Igbo land for thousands of years. And they went further to state that two Igbo communities were the places from where Igbo people dispersed to other parts of Igbo land. Precisely, these Igbo communities were Isuama in the Olo, that's a present-day Imo State, and also Okanri in present-day Anambra State. So they believe that from these two major communities, or these two communities, Igbo people dispersed to other parts of Igbo land. Now, another claim and another evidence they tend to present was the fact that these two communities do not have any, even the elders or the eldest people for many years cannot remember any form of oral tradition that tend to state that that their ancestors came from somewhere from outside outside their community. Well, looking at this analysis, one can come up with one thing. There may be a possibility that there was some level of migration by the Igbo people. But the truth is that no historian has been able to substantiate from where this migration came from. Whether it was from a place outside Igbo land, or from a place outside Africa, or from a place within Africa. This was because some other Igbo communities may still remember some level of information about migration of their great-grandfathers or their ancestors or their forefathers, apart from Okanri and Isuama. But another twist to it is that the archaeological evidences found in Igbo land tend to explain or tend to prove that Igbo people have lived in Igbo land for thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago. Now, to attempt marrying these internalists and externalists together, if it is true that the Igbo people have came from a place outside of Igbo land, then the issue is this: when did this migration from outside Igbo land or from within Africa, when did it take place? Now, there's another school of thought that tend to explain that Igbo people's origin may have been from somewhere in Africa. Some mentioned Timbuktu, some mentioned Khartoum, and some other areas. Some of them, though, have gone ahead to claim that there are evidences, some genetic evidences that tend to prove that Igbo people left Timbuktu. If that is true, if that evidence is true, now the issue is this: was Timbuktu or Khartoum the original place from where Igbo people left before they went southwards? Secondly, when did this movement start? Did it happen thousands of years ago? Then, but the question is this: does it mean that if all the Igbos in the Timbuktu or Khartoum or left, all of them left? If you understand the concept of migration, yes, wars can lead to some situation, but it is a little bit impossible for every other ethnic group, if there is to be mass movement, to move the center, move. There may be one or two that may remain. Presently, I was watching one of these cable television, and then I happened to see that recently the last Jewish man that lived in Afghanistan recently returned back to Israel. Even though there were issues with the Taliban, the time the Taliban were there, and some of them were aggressive towards him, he stayed back. Still practiced his religion, although under persecution. Recently, with the taking over of Afghanistan by the Taliban, he started to leave with his family. But he stayed even after order of his brothers and sisters, relatives left. So, are there evidences there? Do we have archaeological evidences to show that Igbo people left Khartoum or Sudan or Timbuktu? Are there remains, even if someone is moving, for instance, and Igbo people are people that have strong cultural values? Are there evidences of interrelationship between them and some other persons? Now, if we should also go down to the concept or the theory that states that Igbo people came all the way from Israel or Egypt, do we have evidences to show that they left there? The cultural and ethnographic or the linguistic relationship between or comparison between the Igbo and the Israelites, can it be fully substantiated? Well, I, for one, don't have answer to this. But if you come back to the internalists, do they have enough evidences, enough archaeological evidences to back up the claim that Igbo people didn't come from somewhere outside Igbo land? Well, my input or my answer to all this is very simple. If in Africa we should give young historians the chance, create avenue, resources for them to go into extensive research in the history of Africa, most of these answers can be generated, or most of these questions can as well be answered. But unfortunately, historical researches in Africa are completely dead. I was watching a particular presentation by two Europeans, and one was from Britain, one was from one other European country, and they were analyzing historical researches in Africa, and they made it very clear that the historical researches in Africa are completely zero, and that is the basic reason why you have a whole lot of misinformation in African historical contents. Governments in Africa don't care. Individuals in Africa don't care. Businesses in Africa don't care about these researches. A group or a continent where researches are not being carried out definitely cannot make any meaning. You can only understand where you're going to if you also understand from where you're coming from. This is the basic reason why people create a lot of speculations, a lot of misinformation, and a whole lot of misinformation have been enshrined into African history from external forces. precisely European forces. One, to hide some of the atrocities in Africa. Secondly, to misinform the people of Africa. And also to make Africans feel inferior, to continue this issue of inferiority complex in Africa. Well, the proper answer to these questions can only be realized through proper research works. Well, I have to end the presentation here. Please subscribe to our channel. Click on the notification bell so that anytime we present a new content, we always be notified. Thank you for being there. Thank you for listening to us. You can as well share our presentations, please. Then, if there are questions you would like us to research and get answers for you, please place them in the comment section. Your contributions also in the comment section will be highly appreciated. But we only beg you should please put it in a way that we can allow the contributions to stay. You don't come and start, castigating us. It does not really make sense. If government or also an individual person that wants any research in historic personal history, group history, please you can also link up to us. Let us discuss. Thank you for being there. See you in the next presentation.